Rosanna, thank you for accepting my invitation to be a part of this summit. Um, for those of, actually, hang on, how many of you have come across Rosanna before? So if you could just raise your hands. Cool. So just to give you an idea, as a quick introduction. So basically, I met Rosanna several years ago, and we were both in the same Michael Neal circle, and we did some peer coaching, and we've been in touch ever since. But I don't know if it was on our first coaching or second coaching session. She literally said one word, one phrase that stopped me in my tracks, and it sort of opened this gateway to having an insight and realization, which I never thought I would have ever come across it. So, I'm ever so grateful for you, Rosanna, for that. So, Rosanna, please, first of all, tell us about yourself.
Mm. While I was taking a shower today, I thought, I hope Hakan doesn't ask that. Yeah. Well, what can I tell you? Mm. I, for many years, I was like searching something that made my life better, or a better experience of life. And I learned a lot of techniques. I took a lot of trainings, and I was like, oh yes, this is it. But although I had a really nice experience during the practice of yoga, meditation, whatever, nothing changed in my experience of life wasn't changing, only my experience of moments of life. So I kept on, maybe here, maybe here. And around 5 years ago, I think I came to at the same time, I started studying with Michael Neal and with Robert Holden, the 3 Ps and A Course in Miracles. And I didn't get either of them at the beginning because I was trying to get them in my head, both. And I felt uncomfortable, but I liked it. And I just decided to stay there. And suddenly, if I was in A Course in Miracles and I heard only love is real, I was like, oh, this is the 3 principles. And when I heard something in the 3 Ps, I was, oh yes, this is a miracle, a change of perception. And I started knowing that they were pointing to the same direction. And I don't know how I could go from my head to my heart suddenly. And then my experience of life started changing. That's what comes up now. If I can say something about me, is that I'm seeing this, and what I love most is to share it, share what I see. Whatever I start seeing, I like to share it with others, and that's what I do now. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. So actually, who came first? Was it Robert or was it Michael? Or was it both at the same
Robert.
time? Robert.
Robert, many years ago, because of his happiness program. I was into laughter yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew in the laughter yoga community that Oprah talked about laughter yoga in her show. And I saw the chapter, and Robert Holden was there talking about happiness. And his work was nothing related to laughter yoga, but I liked him. And I started searching and reading his books, and took some recorded course about happiness. I loved it. In one of the first books that I read, there was something that really, really, really touched me. He said, you cannot be happy and inauthentic. And I don't think I understood what that meant, but I sensed that there was a lot of truth in there. And it stayed with me. And during the pandemic, some of the great things about the pandemic was the opportunity to be with them in some groups. And Robert mentioned Michael Neal once, I don't know, before the pandemic once, and I wrote the name down. And having a lot of free time during the pandemic, I searched who Michael Neal was, and I started joining his groups, and I've stayed with both of them since then, because I think that it's a continuous conversation where you can always see more and more and more. Yeah.
So it sounds like Oprah created the ripple effects for you to meet Robert, to meet Michael, and then literally like be here. So I'm curious, what intention, if we were to set an intention, what would you want to leave for like people who are watching, participating in the summit? If like maybe like a gift for them, and what would you like to receive from this?
I've attended to as many sessions as I've been able to during the summit. And the gift that I've received is knowing different people with different personalities, different backgrounds, but all pointing in the same direction. And I've enjoyed every conversation. And I feel that you never know who says something that will touch someone. And well, I'd love to be one of those persons while sharing, at the same time that I've been receiving. You know, it's like I know that we all have access to the same wisdom or to the same love, and we can all learn from each other. So that.
Just like when you take a look at the words, what comes to you, or what does it mean for you? Like, when you hear beyond, when you hear possibilities and ripple effects.
For me, it's a feeling. So it's not very easy to describe with words. But it's a feeling of openness. And maybe that's what I was searching when I started searching and finding techniques and things. I think that for some reason I was very closed, like with an armor, and I just opened it with certain people, with certain circumstances, and came back to close it again. And opening is what I relate to beyond the possibilities. And to the ripple effect, because I think that maybe that's what I admire the most of the people that I admire, is when I feel that they open up. And when you open up, you give permission to others to do the same. And that's the ripple effect, I guess.
So, like, what sort of comes to me is like being authentic, and that presence is felt, and that sort of carries on.
Yeah.
Now, we previously were speaking, and I think you mentioned about there was one particular area that you always was like, I don't want to deal with those type of people. I think it related to mental health type of issues.
No, it's not that I don't want to relate,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that I know what you're talking about. It's that I thought that I could see, for example, like the inside out understanding or the 3Ps, like in many areas, but I didn't know what to do with when someone said, I have this diagnosis. And my psychiatrist said this. And yes, I thought like, oh, that's not my area. I cannot go there. And something it's opening up in that area now. I'm studying with Hannah Stotley, who is her work is with diagnosis. Well, she wrote a book called Beyond Diagnosis, and I'm having a training there now where I feel that I'm starting to see that, of course, if they are principles, they apply to everything, everywhere, every time. But I couldn't see that before. I was like, oh no, that's not my area. And I'm starting to see. You need, well, I think I need information. I need to read about it. Not to be a specialist, of course, because neither she's a doctor but how to see that everything starts with a busy mind and a misunderstanding of how we function and how there is mental health beneath every diagnosis. So I'm super interested in that, and I think that it will. There have been like 2 or 3 cases of people that I know with diagnosis that I thought I could help, but I didn't know how. And now I think that's what invited me to see more in that direction.
The last time that we spoke, it seemed like that was a particular direction that was like a calling for you. I don't know, was I smoking my own supply?
It's opening up.
Mhm.
I'm not sure, but there's a possibility, yes.
Mm. And so if you were to take a look back, go back about 5, 10 years ago, well, 10 years, if you would look at how your life was then and what it's like now, um, would that be in line of what you would have expected or imagined?
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
Mm.
I would say yes, but I didn't know the form it would take. I have always been a not planner person. I don't know how to say it. I don't plan in the future. So I wouldn't know what I was expecting 10 years ago.
Mm.
Because I've had without proposing it, I've been taking the decisions like moment to moment in my personal life, in my working life, like, oh, I don't feel like doing this, or I feel like doing this. Even getting married or having kids, or what, like, let's do it. When I got married, I didn't know if I wanted kids, or like, yes. So I was 10 years ago, I was doing kind of the same work I do now. Well, except for coaching one-to-one, but I was doing workshops and retreats, offering the techniques that I had learned, like laughter yoga and family yoga and other things that was, I love to learn. So I was always taking trainings and then sharing them. And so I still do workshops and retreats, but now I think they're taking a much deeper form, knowing that they are not to fix anyone, knowing that they are just to be with people's, seeing how well they are made.
So, am I right in saying like the workshops that you do, they're mainly for mothers and daughters?
I've done a lot of mothers and daughters because, well, I have a daughter and I have like the best relationship with her while she was growing, since she was born, and we were like, and one day when she was 15, one day my perception was that, who is this girl? I don't know her anymore. And I didn't know how to deal with that. And even if it was not, nothing terrible happened, we had difficult years. And we were, so in our role of mother and daughter, because I'm your mother and you should do this. And she was, well, I didn't ask to be your daughter. And I said, what's happening here? And I started organizing retreats for mothers and daughters. They were, at the beginning, they were for mothers and very young daughters, like from 7 to 11 years old, because I said, so that they have a better relationship before they become teenagers. But then the mothers asked, oh, why you should do it with teenagers, please. And then we started doing with teenagers. And then some of the mothers said, oh, imagine to have this experience with your own mother. So I did it with adults, and sometimes with 3 generations, like the grandmother, the mother, and the daughter. And although I didn't know about the 3 principles, but they were very joyful and very getting them out of their heads and their opinion of the other. And I had the feeling that that was a good direction. Just a lot of feeling and connecting without their stories. And I stopped those with the pandemic, because of the pandemic. And I've organized other retreats, but not with mothers and daughters. And I want to organize one soon, because with this understanding, I think will be more loving and more with more possibilities. Yeah.
It's yeah, I can so relate to that, you know, because sometimes like it can appear that with our parents, it's like the hardest thing is when we have a relationship, there isn't that complete connection.
Because we identify, well, I don't speak for myself, but I identified a lot with my role as a mother, no? And then I made up some rules or some about what was right and what was wrong and what. So that was make it difficult, and I think that's my experience, especially mothers and daughters, because there is a lot of mirroring with each other. For example, I have a son, and it was lighter because we didn't mirror like with the same intensity. And I know that my daughter didn't have this mirror with her father either. No, but mothers and daughters, I think it's like the strongest connection and the hardest, and with the possibility of being the greatest. Also.
Just interest here. When you created this event, I mean, was it completely plain sailing? Did everything fall into place?
Can you say it again?
So, like with the events that you've created, especially like the mother and daughter one, did everything just easily fall into place? Was there like any challenges that you came across? Or was it just plain sailing?
It was quite easy. I think that when I had the first day that I had the idea of doing it, I just threw it without knowing what would happen. And it was a very good experience. And this thing that people was asking, why don't you do it for teenagers when for adults? Also mothers that had sons asked for mothers and sons, and I did mothers and sons as well. And it was a really good flow. There was something that I couldn't, but with teenagers, sometimes mother they didn't tell them that they were going to the retreat because they knew that the girls would say not interested, and then they said we're going on a vacation, and when they arrived there they were super angry, like what's this? It happened many times that the mother said that's the only way to bring her. I think I wouldn't do that, but they all, I think they all had a nice experience afterwards. They could put down their barriers or the armors, and it was very nice. Yeah. I think that those retreats were something that I felt I was meant to do them because the way they were flowing, you know. And before all this, I studied filmmaking, and I was in that working in that area, and I struggled a lot, like to get a job, to do the next thing, to no, and since I started, I don't know how to say, self-development or um, doing the things that I do now, it has been much easier.
When you say like struggle, so like when you say easier, are we talking like mental ease or easier just doing the stuff? So like for me, when I sort of struggle, I struggle here.
Yeah,
That's where
yeah,
I do the struggling, right? You know,
yeah, totally here,
yeah.
and thinking about if I should follow a strategy, and yeah, everything here. And when it's easier, it's just coming from the heart, and you receive the help you need, and yes, coming from another place.
And so, so even when creating these workshops, right? Did you have to do things which stretch yourself or things that you maybe weren't used to?
Opening up.
Ah,
Uh, like I gave permission
yeah.
myself in those moments, in those places, to open up, and I think it felt great. But maybe after the retreat, come back to my safety place, or to my,
Mm.
and that was in the first years of the retreats. And I think yes, it was a stretching, but I felt that, or I consider myself an introvert. So here I can open up,
Mm.
and then I am an introvert. And now I know that depending on what I'm thinking, I can be extrovert or introvert or whatever, but I don't define myself as an introvert. And I can, maybe it was a muscle that I started to work with. No, the feeling of opening up, on it feels good, but then now I think that I can open up more easily whenever.
So, you know, like from creating the workshops, is there on this journey of creating them, is there things that you discovered, realized about other people?
I think my perception has changed a lot in the because I felt that, or I believed that I needed fixing and everybody else as well. So I had like this, oh, she needs to work on this or that, or no. Uh, of course, and I need to work on this, and I had to improve this or that. And now I feel that it's just being with people, being there with them to see how beautifully they're made, because I started seeing it in myself, and then I can see it in everyone, and it's just like that's what I'm pointing to. Nothing to fix, nothing to work on.
So we've got 20 minutes left. So this is a co-creation as well. So you all have the opportunity to participate in creating what this next 20 minutes will be like. And this 20 minutes, once we're never going to have this again. This same experience, this same situation ever again. So we've got that opportunity, and that's my invitation to every single one of you as well. It's not just about me, not just about Rossana, it's about all of us as well. So feel free to jump in whenever you want as well. Um, what has made the biggest impact for you?
Are you talking to me or to everyone?
Actually, we'll talk to everyone. That's a question. Before I answer that to Rosada, yeah, I'm curious. What has made the biggest impact for all of you guys? Now, you could put your hand up or share in the chat. You know, that'd be so wonderful to sort of share, because even if we share something as small, as big as that, that has the potential to create ripple effects within each and every one of us here, and whoever may even listen to the recording. Howard says three principles and being. Do you want to share a little bit more, Howard? Feel free to just unmute yourself and jump on.
Okay, so I've been coaching for over 20 years as a career coach with a little bit of life coaching. And then probably about 2 years ago, I sort of bumped into three principles, and then into, the ultimate coach, and the being movement. Um, and there's no two ways about it. That's changed and really shifted my thinking and my being, and I'm a very different person, today to what I was, 2, 3 years ago,
Uh,
and I now offer this same shift, transformation, if you like, to clients, because I think it's pretty profound. And I don't know, I certainly meet a lot of other coaches that, have taken on the three principles, the being movement, and it's affected their lives and created a very loving and compassion environment that they keep building all the time. And that, without a doubt, has been ripples, from Sydney Banks through to, Steve Hardison. These are ripples that are going to carry on for years and years to come.
and you're actually being a part of that, because I'm curious, because I might be smoking my own supply here, but this,
If you've got
your,
any left.
yeah, I know, I've got plenty. Uh, this change in you, that's most probably my hypothesis here is it's most probably impacted those close to around you, like family, loved ones.
I'll give you an example. So this was actually something that happened, I think, back in September, October. My daughter turned around to me and she said, "Are you all right?" And I sort of said, "Yeah, I'm fine." I said, "Why?" She said, "You're so happy these days," which was lovely, coming from her. And that was a reflection of my being.
Mm,
Um, so I think those two things have had a profound effect on me. As two things, but there are lots of other things around that. There's ego, there's slowing down, there's all these other things that are part of that, um, that have an effect on us as coaches, but also for us to translate, across to our clients. Because, I think most coaches are continuous learners, and it's the knowledge that we find, that we absorb, which make us better and better coaches all the time, and that has an impact on the clients that we're helping. So I had a client the back end of last year, and it's actually on my LinkedIn, but he said something along the lines of, and it was his sister who bought him a couple of sessions with me, as a birthday present for him. And he sort of said, I was very skeptical the first time I was coming to meet you, but he said that changed very quickly. He said, "You made me feel like the most important person in the room." Now, if I can do that for
mhm.
every client that I meet, then I'm a happy bunny.
Uh, you just reminded me when I had my first proper coach. Um, it was for the first time in my life I really, really felt that someone was listening. I was heard and seen. Um, I couldn't believe it. It was like as if I was in a cocoon of love with her.
Yeah, yeah. And this is very much what Rosanna does, with her mothers and the
Yeah.
daughters, and she's over time, you get better and better at doing that with each group and with each workshop that you're doing. And you can almost anticipate where the issues and where the help that you can give to that group of people. Because I don't know who said it, but you should never teach something that you haven't experienced, or that you're not fully immersed in. And that's why for Rosanna, this was one of the first things that she did, because she had experienced that herself,
Mm.
and she was able to give that out to other mothers and children.
It was- Thank
What,
you.
what you said, thank you. What you said about your daughter seeing you very happy. I kind of experienced that on Sunday, that it was Mother's Day, because I felt that I had the best Mother's Day ever, because
Yeah.
my husband and daughter and son were so loving. And I felt this is a reflection of what's going on in my life, that we don't talk here about the three principles or anything, but I I know that they're receiving something different from me, and they I don't know, the ripple effects. I think
Absolutely.
if
And
they don't start at home, there's
but the more loving we are,
something.
the more
Yeah.
loving we are, that those ripples go out. I mean, I had a client, that I'm still working with, and I introduced him to the three principles, and I also set tasks for him to do to be more loving to his wife. And as a result, his wife has responded, and she's become more now they are inseparable. Whereas before they were living a life, but they were apart. Now they're totally entwined because one person takes that initial step to be far more loving. And I see this in a lot of coaches' relationships. I mean, I'm divorced, what, nearly 6 years now. But I mean, Ankush is a fantastic example. The loving relationship that he has, Steve Hardison, the loving relationship he has with Amy, Steve Chandler, the same. I mean, and a lot of other people that I know who are coaches, their relationships with their wives or partners, is almost second to none because it's all based on that mutual love that you get up every day and you see the person that you're with.
There's something came to me, Howard, when you mentioned that as well. You reminded me of what Steve says. He goes, every morning I create Amy. So every day I recreate her and our relationship. So that sort of just came to me while you were sort of mentioning about that. So, Greg, you want to share about separate realities?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been one of the big insights for me working with the principals is, I probably spent the bulk of my life believing we all lived in one objective reality and the people that didn't agree with me were idiots. And I mean, when we're talking about, relationships and families and things, like certainly since I saw separate realities um, as a more accurate way of describing how the world actually works, my level of judgment of my wife or my kids. I'll tell you a funny story. I was on a weekend with Jamie Smart or something, and I had this insight. So I'm right-handed, my wife is left-handed, and we live in a subdivision, and there's multiple ways to drive to get out of our subdivision. And I have my route, which I used to think was the optimal, this is the right way to get out of our subdivision. And my wife would always go the other way. And we get in the car, and immediately, as soon as she backed into the driveway, the opposite way that I would have gone, she could almost feel the judgment like oozing out of my pores. And I had this insight. It's like, oh, maybe it's just as simple as she's left-handed and I'm right-handed, so she's oriented to the world differently than I am. And so it was just another example of separate realities. And maybe that one was predicated off of just left-handedness versus right-handedness. Like her brain works differently than my brain does. That's fine. Anyway, I've that separate realities thing. It just lets me let go of so many things that used to cause me angst. And now I'm actually curious when people see things differently than I do. Even like when I'm coaching people for sure, but outside of coaching, just when there's a disagreement or people are seeing things differently, I'm like, oh, that's just so interesting to me. Like, what? Explain that, or what's your theory on why that's happening? That kind of thing. And it's just, and I'm not as tied to what I'm thinking or seeing the world as being. And I suppose as I'm saying it here, I'm more secure. Like I have no insecurity around being wrong or that there might be a different, better, more useful way to see things than the way I've been seeing them. And that helps in all kinds of relationships. Um, my kids just moved back. My daughter just graduated from university. My son's home from school for the summer. So we've gone from an empty nest to a full nest again. And we're adjusting to that. And my kids are adjusting to going from complete freedom and autonomy to now, not that we're trying to restrict them, but like where are you going? When are you coming home? We're juggling who needs the car and when. And it's just so much easier than it used to be before they moved away to school because my understanding is just, I'm 4 years further down the road. So yeah, it's been wonderful. One other insight that's coming to mind that I wanted to share was around our innate capacity for resilience. So Jamie Smart had talked many times about this book called Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb that I managed to get through a couple times on Audible. But he kept talking about resilience, our capacity for resilience. And the insight I had was like, oh yeah, the reason we have such a capacity for resilience is because we need it. Like there's going to be hardships, there's going to be times we get knocked down, things aren't going to go our way. Um, we were on the call. I was on the call yesterday with Odin, and he was sharing the tragic story of losing his son. Um, it's for things like that we have this capacity for resilience. So I had this kind of delusion when I first got into the principles that this was the pathway to leading a perfectly harmonious life. And I realized there is no such thing. Like you can, no matter how deep your grounding is, life is going to throw things at you, and we have this capacity to bounce back and deal with them. So it almost erased that goal of mine of like not having any bumps in the road. Like now I'm like, okay, bring on the bumps. I can handle them.
When you mention about resilience, um, this is something I'm seeing more and more. It's like when there are problems or issues in the real world, like physical world,
Mm,
so we've got the resilience to deal with it. However, when it comes to like stuff in our heads, the stories and stuff like that, they're so hard work. And to as Jamie says, he goes, we've got the capacity to deal with everything, but I'm going to most probably butcher this up completely, but it's hard to when it's where we get into trouble is when we're dealing with the problems in our heads.
yeah, yeah. We're built for reality, and
Yes,
yeah, yeah. We don't do well when we're in la la land
that's it. Yes,
until we realize that, oh yeah, we're in la la land. I don't have to take this all so seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason we believe we were taught, I don't know, we saw Disney movies, whatever, but we thought that we would have a great life without bumps and without losing dear ones and without losing, no, and it's part of life, everything,
Mm,
everything, and everyone's life is like that. And when we're down, we feel no, like why me? Or well, yeah, I used to feel like that, and now I know it's just part of life.
mm,
And I think
Sorry, I is going to share something. I saw yesterday on Facebook someone who has a podcast in Mexico that I don't follow or anything, but for some reason I saw a video that was there. And he was talking, I think he's quite famous with a lot of followers, but I didn't know him. And he was sharing in a very profound way, I think, with his mother on Mother's Day about when he lost his father. And it was about the father committed suicide. And they were talking about that. And it was a very honest conversation. And then I saw the comments. There were hundreds or thousands, or I don't know, of comments of people talking about the same, like, thank you for sharing that because I had the same experience, because it's part of life. And if we don't allow to embrace everything that happens, there's something that we're close and we're not being authentic and we're not opening up to life. And just one person that did that gave permission to so many others that said, I had never talked about this. I had never talked about it.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that's the thing. I mean, pardon my French, but shit happens. It's life.
yeah.
And I think one of the things that as coaches we learn to do with the three principles in our being is that we have that resilience, we have that acceptance that it is just part of life. And you don't, I think you stop taking it on personally because you know it's just part of life. And it happens to you, it happens to them, it happens to them over there, it happens to everyone. But it makes you more resilient to be able to keep moving on. And you know, to go back to what Greg said, insofar as that resilience turns into love for everybody else around you. And you make allowances. So, you know, where you've enjoyed, you know, your freedom and doing your own thing, and then suddenly all the family comes back, you have to adjust. But you become very resilient to that, and it becomes easier each time you do it. Because there's a level of acceptance there. Sorry, that was my toughest.
This
Thank
is
you.
a silly example, but I was washing dishes today, and I was saying to my daughter, you know, a year ago I would have been mad that they'd made so many dishes, and now it's a pleasure to clean up after them. Like, it's, who would have thunk that I could actually think like that?
Also, thank you. We're at the top of the hour. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rossana, for being here. Thank you for
Thank you.
everyone who's in the live call and who's watching the replay. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.